आई वॉज वेरी सरप्राइज एंड ओवरवेल्म कि यार मतलब मेरी फिल्म के लिए इतना कुछ हो रहा है, ठीक है, क्योंकि आई वॉज ऑलवेज यूज टू मेकिंग these short films where I was doing everything on my own, from camera to sound to writing, editing, everything else. And now suddenly here's this whole team of lightmen and sound and everything, and it's all happening for my film, and then there's a clapboard which has my name on it. So I thought yaar ye to sirf bade filmon mein hota hai. So I was very very, very overwhelmed in the very beginning.
हेलो एवरीवन। एक कहानी से शुरू करते हैं। लास्ट ईयर इस टाइम पे लॉकडाउन में मैं बॉम्बे में था और मुझे किसी ने, मैं एग्जैक्टली श्योर नहीं हूँ कि ये जाकिर खान का जो उन्होंने स्पॉटिफाई पे एक पॉडकास्ट किया, एक सीरीज की थी, उस पे था या फिर कहाँ से था, एग्जैक्टली डोंट रिमेम्बर, बट आई केम टू नो अबाउट दिस फिल्म कॉल्ड गामक घर। ठीक है, और सरप्राइजिंगली मेरे पास मूवी का अकाउंट था, मैंने वो फिल्म चला दी। ठीक है, तो पहली बात तो ये थी कि ये फिल्म गामक घर से ही मुझे पता चल गया था कि अरे ये तो मैथिली, ये तो मेरे नानी घर की भाषा है। ठीक है, तो मैंने कहा अच्छा मैथिली में फिल्में बनी है, आई डेंट नो अबाउट दैट। फिर उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ सरप्राइज आया, वो फिल्म जब खुला, फिल्म जब शुरू हुई, तो जो फिल्म का पहला शॉट था उसमें हमारे डायरेक्टर ने या फिर हमारे डीओपी ने कैमरा रख के छोड़ दिया। ठीक है, और मुझे याद आ गई अब्बास कियारोस्तामी के द विंड विल कैरी अस की। मैं और इंट्रिग्ड। ठीक है, फिर फिल्म देखी, मैंने फिल्म देखी, उसमें इतने सारे मोटिव्स और इतने सारे रीजंस और इतने सारे लॉजिक थे कि फिल्म के एंड में मैंने सामने वाले बंदे का किसी तरीके से ईमेल ढूंढा, मुझे नहीं पता, थैंक्स टू इंटरनेट, और मैंने उनको ईमेल कर दिया। और ये जो सामने वाला बंदा है, वो उस फिल्म का प्रोड्यूसर है, वो उस फिल्म का डायरेक्टर है, वो उस फिल्म का एडिटर है, वो इस फिल्म का या प्रोड्यूसर एंड राइटर है। ठीक है, इतने सारे होने के बाद जब मैंने कम से कम अपने 50-60 दोस्तों को पकड़ पकड़ के दिखाया, ठीक है, एंड द काइंड ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स आई गॉट, उसके करीब एक हफ्ते बाद, मेरे मेल लिखने के एक हफ्ते बाद, आई गॉट द रिस्पॉन्स फ्रॉम दिस गाय। ठीक है, एंड आई वॉज सो हैप्पी, दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम आई एम राइटिंग एन मेल। उसके बाद मुझे नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ सरप्राइज पता चला कि ये बंदा 22 ईयर्स का है। ठीक है, तो सबसे पहले तो मुझे अपने उम्र पे शर्म आ गई। ठीक है, कि व्हाट एम आई डूइंग विथ माई लाइफ। तो and when I started thinking about who are all the guests I wanted to invite on a podcast, the very first few people that came to my mind, one of them was Achal. And Achal was kind enough to respond to my email almost like in a day time, and here we are. So I am introducing you to Achal Chitra. He is the director of GAMAK GHAR, and before I let him say anything, go and watch GAMAK GHAR before you watch this interview, because GAMAK GHAR will blow your mind. And it will tell you, even if you are not from Bihar, it's a story of Bihar, and even if you are not from Bihar, this story will blow your mind, because all of us, and I remember this from one of the comedians, we are all immigrants, and GAMAK GHAR talks about migration. So hello Achal, sorry for the long prologue, it's just admire and
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Achal, let's start with a question about GAMAK GHAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the production of GAMAK GHAR, where you train with untrained actors in your own old house over the period of 8-9 months, editing, producing, directing the film, this is kind of a dream. So all the filmmakers that I have ever met, they always say कि उनको ये करना है, वो चाहते हैं कि अपने प्रोड्यूसर कंट्रोल से बाहर निकले और वो आर्टिस्टिक कंट्रोल की बात करें। ठीक है, it's a dream for amateur as well as auteur as well, right? So where did you get the courage, especially when you are so young and you have dropped from the school? Where did you get the courage, right?
Yeah. I mean, all of it, happened very organically in a way. Okay. I mean, there was no plan of making this big a film. I mean, however big it is, I mean, it's small only, but like, जब start हो रही थी तो कुछ idea नहीं था. I mean, the very reason I wanted to make the film was because the house was gonna get renovated. So I thought कि कुछ बना लेते हैं यहाँ पे छोटा मोटा. And then we started writing, and it turned out to be a feature film. And I got scared at first. यार feature film कैसे बना पाऊंगा मैं at this stage, because I was 21 then, and it was I knew that a feature is a lot of work, and I used to think that maybe I'll make one when I'm 25 at least. ठीक है, 4 साल तो देते हैं, अभी बहुत कुछ पढ़ना है, बहुत कुछ देखना है, and lots of other things. But the idea was so enticing that I started thinking कि अच्छा, it's set in 3 parts. Okay, and it's like it will be like making 3 different short films. Okay, and what made it easier was that it was my own house, it was my own village, so I always knew I'm going to have that support, you know, that I won't have problem with, getting the extra, especially for a scene like the feast scene. Okay, so uh, but things escalated when I started getting a team together, you know, because I don't come from a film school background. So अगर वो लोग नहीं होते तो मैं फिर भी फिल्म बना लेता. It wouldn't be this technically, finished in that way. बट फिर भी कुछ तो बन जाता. ठीक है, उसका साउंड बहुत ही खराब होता. वो इतनी सुंदर जितनी दिख रही है उतनी नहीं दिखती. ठीक है, बट कुछ बन जाता. बट the film started getting, the production started getting more serious when, especially, I got Anand on board, our DOP. So, he comes from a film school background and they know how to do things. They know how to go about things. And then sound wala, the sound person came in, and that's when I realized this is an actual film. मतलब इसमें पैसे खर्च होंगे और इसमें मतलब सब कुछ होगा. But still, we were ready to go. We did the casting and everything. And then the next, blow came when we started shooting. And that's when I realized I can't do this. अभी मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगा ये. So basically the shoot started and there were these huge lights which I had never seen in my life, obviously apart from the one film set I was in my life, which was Talwar. So and there was I was very surprised and overwhelmed कि यार मतलब मेरी फिल्म के लिए इतना कुछ हो रहा है. ठीक है, क्योंकि I was always used to making these short films where I was doing everything on my own, from camera to sound to writing, editing, everything else. And now suddenly here's this whole team of lightmen and sound and everything, and it's all happening for my film. And then there's a clapboard which has my name on it. So I thought, यार ये तो सिर्फ बड़े फिल्मों में होता है. So I was very very, very overwhelmed in the very beginning. And then things started going very opposite of what we had planned. ठीक है, because एक तो non actors थे and I had no idea कि it's gonna turn out like that, because I had always worked with non-actors, but I had never worked with non-actors in such a setup with like lapel mics going in and like lights all around and clap and everything. So those non-actors were not able to perform at all in the very beginning, and I had a script in place which was not at all working out. So the first obstacle was this key, and this made me think कि I'm not ready yet to do this. ठीक है, मुझे नहीं आता है, मुझे नहीं पता मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ अभी, बिकॉज जो भी लाइंस लिखी हैं वो कुछ भी नहीं बोल पा रहे एक्टर्स, एंड इट्स नॉट एट ऑल वर्किंग. एंड देन फ्रॉम द फोर्थ डे, आई थिंक थर्ड और फोर्थ डे, इट स्टार्टेड रेनिंग. ठीक है, एंड वी वर एमिंग फॉर दिस होल समर वाला लुक ना. इन द फर्स्ट पार्ट इट वाज supposed to be all sunny and green and nice, and suddenly this whole rain, and it kept raining for like 2-3 days, and we're not able to shoot anything. मतलब बारिश का थोड़ा सा शूट करना था, but it was just like a little part, but like the whole bit, the main part was not being done. So हर दिन lights का खर्चा जा रहा है and all the equipment and लोग का, and people are coming to me, my crew members, that Achal, either we turn this into a short film and get done with it, or we abandon this. And I'm actually like considering hard, यार मैं maybe I'm not ready to do it yet, maybe I should, maybe एक साल बाद बनाएंगे फिर शायद कुछ और अच्छा बन जाए, और I'll be more ready for it. But ये this was हर रात की कहानी होती थी. फिर हर सुबह we would again go out and see कि यार चलो आज फिर ट्राई करते हैं. ठीक है, and it was just like that, कि मतलब करते गए और मतलब हो गया कुछ. We found ways for everything, for how the non actors were performing, and बारिश भी चली गई, फिर धूप भी आ गई. ठीक है, एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट दिस थिंग ऑफ ऐसा तो सोचा नहीं था कभी कि सब कुछ मैं ही करूंगा फिल्म में. इट जस्ट इट सो हैपेंड कि मतलब अब क्योंकि इतनी पर्सनल स्टोरी है, सो आई वाज राइटिंग. आई हैड को राइटर्स विद मी. आई हैड माय फ्रेंड फ्रॉम पटना, अनुभव, वाज राइटिंग. बट आई रियलाइज कि मतलब वो स्पेस इतना पर्सनल है जहां से आ रही है कहानी, तो मतलब इट हैज टू बी मी हु हैज टू राइट इट. ठीक है, बिकॉज आई रिमेंबर आई रोट द फर्स्ट ड्राफ्ट, and then my friend, he wrote the second draft. And in the second draft I read yaar, why I was questioning why is the dadi behaving like this. Okay, because I was not able to detach the script from my own personal experiences. आई वाज लाइक नहीं यार, मेरी दादी ऐसी नहीं है, मैं इनको ऐसे नहीं देखना चाहता चलाते हुए, ठीक है, माय दादी इज सॉफ्ट, आई वांट हर टू बी सॉफ्ट इन द फिल्म. सो इट वाज सो पर्सनल कि मतलब आई एंडेड अप राइटिंग इट, एंड कुछ हमारा प्लान नहीं था टू पिच इट समवेयर और एनीथिंग लाइक दैट, सो आई एंडेड अप बीइंग द प्रोड्यूसर एज वेल. And it was not just me, it was also Anand who was helping arrange things and manage things, so we were all producers eventually. And about the editing, it's just something I like doing, so I end up editing my own films. So all of it just came together, and I ended up doing like 4 or 5 things. We did the production design as well. Anand and I, we did for the first part, and our production designer, she joined us later for the second and third part.
Okay. So you did all of this very well. So take it from me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us, where do you come from? How did all this start? And I mean, you only have 21 years of journey, which is what normal people take
Now
in
now
order to make
24.
films.
Yeah.
I mean, when you started your first
Yeah.
film, right? So normally this is
Yeah.
a lot of time
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
take in assisting directors and this and that, right? And then when they
हाँ.
move to their first film, तो कैसे शुरू हुआ? कैसे बात शुरू हुई?
हाँ. So मैं बचपन से मतलब I was into drawing at first. I used to draw and paint and all that. Then I think around so it has kept evolving at every
Where were you
stage.
living then?
When I was probably in sixth. Sorry.
Where were you living back then? I mean, childhood?
So I was in Darbhanga till I was 8 or 9 years old.
Mhm.
Fourth class तक. उसके बाद I moved to a boarding school near Chandigarh. So it was in the foothills, DPS Pinjore. So it was in DPS I started. I wanted to be a writer then. Okay, so I used to write different things and book publish करनी थी and all that. But साथ में drawing भी बहुत चल रही थी. Then around I think when I was in ninth grade, I picked up a camera for the first time and I started clicking pictures and I realized okay, maybe this is the thing for me. So उस टाइम तो मतलब वही घर पे गार्डन में फोटोज और सनसेट और ये सब. And then I was around when I was in 10th, I started doing work on the computer. Like I was doing web design with like CSS and all that. So मैं अपनी websites बनाता था. साथ में drawing भी है, writing भी है, photography भी है. Someone had suggested at that time कि मुझे animation करना चाहिए क्योंकि visual sense है और साथ में computers अच्छे से आता है. So maybe I could combine that and do animation. I thought, yeah, why not? उस टाइम तक कुछ नहीं पता था क्या करना है लाइफ में. I think the one thing which had the most priority was like हाँ maybe writer बनना है. तो 10th के बाद I ended up in Kota because my parents are doctors, so everyone thought I would also become a doctor. I also thought I'll also become a doctor. So मैं कोटा गया and कोटा जाके realize हुआ कि नहीं यार ये तो नहीं करना मुझे बिल्कुल भी. And in Kota I ended up doing everything apart from studying there. I used to buy novels and I used to read novels and I used to write blogs and different things. So एक महीने में ही I decided that I'm not going to do this and I'm going to study English. I'm going to do English honors and study literature. तो वो उस टाइम पे डिसाइड किया था. तो अगर लिटरेचर इन फ्यूचर पढ़ना है तो आई डिसाइडेड टू टेक अप ह्यूमैनिटीज इन 11th और 12th. तो पेरेंट्स तुरंत तैयार थे. जो रेजिस्टेंस आया वो बाकी फैमिली मेंबर से आया. अब बिहार में होता है ना कि अगर ह्यूमैनिटीज कर रहे हैं तो आईएएस बनोगे, तो वो भी चीज आई. बट आई वाज वेरी क्लियर कि ये सब कुछ भी नहीं करना है मेरे को ना. अब हो गया. Now I know what I want to do, and that was literature at that point. Because I was reading a lot, and I had interest in writing as well. So I joined this school in Noida for my 11th and 12th for humanities arts, and it was there that a lot of things happened in just a short span of 2 years. So it was a pretty new school, very new school. Like we were the first batch. And since we were the first batch, we were like just like 17, 18 of us in like the whole 11th standard, including science, humanities, arts. So we were, the teachers knew all of us in that way. The principal knew me and he knew what I do. And, he was very impressed with my parents because he was like, yeah, doctor, hai, but you're still letting him do all this. So I had like his full support throughout. So वहां पे मैं फोटोग्राफी कर रहा था एंड आई वाज आल्सो प्लेइंग बास्केटबॉल एट दैट टाइम लॉट, स्पेशली क्लास 10th में तो बहुत खेला, स्टेट नेशनल सब। तो 11th में वहां पे हमारी मेरी एक टीचर थी एंड आई वाज हर ओनली स्टूडेंट, लाइक वो सब्जेक्ट में मैं ही पढ़ रहा था बस। इट वाज इंफॉर्मेटिक प्रैक्टिसेस एंड बिकॉज आई वाज जस्ट दी लाइक दी ओनली स्टूडेंट, शी गॉट टू नो मी वेरी वेल, लाइक शी न्यू कि मतलब मैं ये सब करता हूँ, फोटोज भी लेता हूँ एंड ये सब। सो देयर वाज दिस कॉम्पिटिशन कमिंग अप, some inter-school thing in Delhi for Tagore. It was at Tagore School, if I remember correctly. So वहाँ पे एक film making competition था. So she asked me if I want to try, making a film for it. And I had never done it, but it really excited me. I was like, yeah, let's try something. So I asked someone else for a camera. I remember even the principal gave me his camera to shoot. We shot on that. Then we shot on a friend's camera. I got like three of my friends together, and we made a short film. And that short film was like because वो जो competition था वो अपने topics देता था बनाने के लिए, अपनी themes देता था. So you couldn't make anything outside of it. So we made something, and we ended up getting the best cinematography award for that
Nice.
somehow. ठीक है, तो उसके बाद से ऐसा लगा कि हाँ, this is something I can do. And I ended up making more silly films in school, like बिना प्लान की कुछ भी बस बना रहा हूँ, क्लास बंक करके फिल्म बना रहा हूँ. ठीक है. And there was this huge support from school as well. And I was fortunate to have these wonderful teachers. There was this one Mr. A&R, and he's been a big huge teacher over the last decades. He was a teacher at Doon School first. Then he was a principal at Sindhya School. So all the top schools in India. So I remember he had taught one of two of my favorite authors. In fact, he had taught Vikram Seth and Amitav Ghosh,
Oh,
and he made me get in touch with Amitav Ghosh at that time, and when I was still in school, and he used to get me to meet filmmakers, so that I get to learn something or the other. He called Ashwin Kumar to our school, who's also a filmmaker. Uh, and apart from that, I mean, like huge support. Like I remember I made a film, and it had these kids who were like doing like nasha in school and then running away from school. ठीक है. So I thought यार ये तो स्कूल इसके अगेंस्ट हो जाएगा ना इस फिल्म के, मतलब बिकॉज बच्चे इसमें मतलब गलत चीजें कर रहे हैं और स्कूल से भाग रहे हैं और ये सब कर रहे हैं. The principal saw it and he was like, let's show this on Founders Day. ठीक है. Everyone else was against it, but our principal Pramod Sharma, he was like so supportive of it. फिर I remember when this Ashwin Kumar came. उस time पे I knew I wanted to make films, but I was not watching films as such. बस अपना regular Hollywood जो बड़ी फिल्में होती हैं वो सारा देख रहा था. And I remember Ashwin Kumar came, and since I was the editor of the school magazine, I was interviewing him for an article or in interview, and we asked him the traditional question, what are your influences? And he spoke these names which most of them I was hearing for the first time, and but they just stuck with me. I mean, he was talking obviously about Satyajit Ray, and he was talking about Iranian cinema, which I was hearing for the first time. And he took names of these Mexican films, Ameros Peros and 21 Grams and Babel. And that was it. I mean, that sort of uh, uh, made me start watching these films. I remember I watched Babel, and that was like a turn for me, that I realized there are films like these which exist. And the, it was just the start of me starting watching world cinema. So that was cool. And then again, because of Mr. Aimdar, I got a job on Talwar right after school.
as a
So uh, as an intern AD.
okay.
So I just passed out from school, and then I was called on the set for their Delhi schedule, and it was wonderful. I mean, I got to see a lot of things, I got to learn a lot of things, but I realized this is not for me, you know because being an AD is such an outspoken, you have to be out there, and you have to be loud, and you have to be in control. And I realized I'm not that person. And now looking back, probably the best thing I learned on that set was how to use a walkie talkie. probably, you know, because I kept getting scolded for that. यार अचल सुन लो उस पे और मतलब ये करो वो करो ठीक है. So but it was so great that I got to see the process firsthand happening right in front of me, and like with such wonderful people like Meena Gulzar and Irfan Khan and Pankaj Kumar, who was the DOP. So it was great. And then after that, I sort of knew that, you know, I don't want to go to a film school because as a director, I don't know what I'll get to learn there. So I was like, yeah, English abhi bhi padhna hai. So first I got enrolled in Delhi University. I got into Tirunelveli College. I was doing English honors, and I was still making short films, but none of which I really liked. Uh, Uske baad I thought I'm going to go to London. I applied there, and fortunately I got into King's College. And there it was a double major course. I was doing literature, English, and film studies. But I mean, London really opened up a whole new world for me in terms of watching cinema. And it was like I was consuming cinema on a daily basis there, because King's College is like right in the center of London, and I was staying there. So I was staying right in the center of London, and and the cathedral of cinema. सो वहां पे जितनी फिल्म्स मैंने देखी वो मतलब उसके बाद कभी उतना नहीं देख पाया. मतलब आई वाज बाइंग डीवीडीज देयर व्हिच आई हैड नेवर डन बिफोर एंड व्हिच आई हैव नेवर डन आफ्टर दैट आल्सो. वो वही फेज था बस जितना टाइम मैं लंदन में था. बिकॉज इट वाज ऑल अवेलेबल देयर. आई वाज वाचिंग फिल्म्स which I could have never found in India. And I used to walk into these DVD stores, and there were films categorized by countries. So it was almost like how one buys a book. Don't know anything about it. You probably go into a bookstore and you read the blurb at the back, and you end up buying it. So that was what was happening with me in terms of watching films. That I knew that I have not seen the cinema of say Taiwan, of say Japan, or things like that. But as soon as I started watching, I realized, there's just so much there. And, when we start out, we only know the big names. We know the Tarkovskys and the, Jean Renoir and Antonioni and all that, Bergman, obviously. But when I watched Ozu and Hirokazu Koreda and Hu Shaoshan, most of these Asian filmmakers, I realized this is so much closer to what I want to do in terms of, my filmmaking. And I didn't I hadn't seen all these till now. But as soon as I saw them, I was like, this is it. And I started watching more of it as much as was possible. So sorry, that is where I, ended up discovering my favorite directors, which are today. That is where I bought DVDs of Kiarostami and, Koreda and just fell in love. And at the same time, I was not really enjoying the college at all, because I mean, I always felt that I want to make films, and I want to make films right now as well. I don't want to wait to finish my course. And then at the same time, I was also feeling that this is not where I'm going to make my films. Okay, it took me this going to London to realize that I can only make films about where I come from, of what I have seen, and that was also there in the filmmakers I was reading about, and in the films they were making. So I mean, Satyajit Ray used to say that to be universal, you have to be as local as possible. And even Hu Shaoshan going back to his childhood and making films about that in his coming of age trilogy, or Hirokazu Koreda, matlab, he was like making a film about his own family and still walking based on his own family. So it was all there around me, and I knew that this is the thing for me. I mean, I can't, because I was also trying to write at that time, and I realized that I can't write about things I don't know about. I can't make fiction up. I'm not that sort of a writer. I'm not that sort of a person, and I need to rely on my own experiences and the things I have seen firsthand, and things closer to that. So that made me want to, just like leave the course. And also because the course was not filmmaking, it was film theory and film analysis, which I was enjoying very much, and I felt I needed all that as well. But after a certain time, after a couple of semesters, it gets like, so too academic, so to say, and I was not really ready for that at all. And I felt that I don't need to write 10-page essays, and I just need to probably go back and make films. So I dropped out and I came back to India. And it was not like my education was complete. I never felt that, and I still keep reading and keep watching films, and that goes on for your lifetime. But at least I knew that that is not something I want to do, and I came back and I started making short films here, which were not great again. So I was like, what am I doing with my life? And then this one film happened, which was like a short film. uh, it was called A Winter Afternoon, and that was like a certain turn again for me, where I, because before that I was making films which where there was like, no, I was treating them on a very surface level. I used to pick up a short story and I was like, ha chalo ye banate hain. But now that I look back on them, those were very necessary as well, because that's where I sort of learned the craft in a way, that where I was doing everything. So, and most of those film choices, that what I want to make, arose from those limitations I had. That I was in my hometown and I had these free days, and I knew I want to do something. So I would choose a story which was possible to do in a week with like limited cast and like limited visual language. Where I don't have to sort of do a car crash or like um need a big crew or like extras, a lot of them. So I was naturally very gravitated towards stories which were easier to make in that way. So I made a couple of short films this time. Did a terrible adaptation of Kafan by Premchand. I adapted Satyajit Ray's short story Bipin Chandra's Lapse of Memory. But when finally I made A Winter Afternoon, I felt, yeah, this is going in the right direction now, because there was a certain development of the visual grammar of the film. I knew what I was doing in those terms, and the story, somewhere it came from inside me, because it was about this uh, 10-year-old kid who's lonely to a certain degree, and he has these doctor parents who are away most of the time. So he ends up befriending a tuition teacher, you know. So it was coming somewhere from my own childhood in a way, And then I was shooting in Darbhanga, which I, really enjoyed doing, because, that's the space I know. And I mean, the film had its technical limitations. I was never very happy with it technically, because again, it was just like me and like a friend, and we were doing sound, color, shooting, everything. So, but I mean, just the story itself made me realize, okay, this is the direction I want to take. And then after that, uh, I mean, I was planning another short film. It was again gonna be, it was gonna have characters who were from Bihar, but it was gonna set in Delhi or Bombay or somewhere. But suddenly, very out of the blue, there was this thing where our house was gonna get renovated, and I thought, and I was in Patna at that time. It was, I think, December of 2017, and I was with my friend, and we were planning to write that other film. And this thing came up, and I was like, let's try and write something short which is set in that house, in that village house. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, the house might just be a backdrop. That's all I care, because I need to shoot something there before the house changes. But as we started, discussing this very idea, we realized, our very impulse to make this film is the house. So why not, let's try doing that. Let's try sticking with the house and, creating a story around it. And recently, someone, a relative of mine, had passed away in the village. And I think that's where the idea of this birth and death and seasons and all of it came in. And being a photographer, I was also shooting Darbhanga for the past couple of years. So I would say I was attuned to the change of seasons and the change of colors. in that way, and I wanted to incorporate that. And that was like, I think, the feeling I had with the house when I saw it at that time. I was like, this it felt completely abandoned, and I realized it stays like that year round. And whenever we come here for like that couple of days, it just gets renovated, and to so that aspect of time passing and all that just came in. And yeah, that was it.
देख लिया वीडियो? हाँ, अब चले जाओगे है ना? ना लाइक, ना शेयर, ना सब्सक्राइब, कुछ नहीं। कतई ना बेगैरती की हदें पार कर रखी है। मतलब देखो, आखिरी बार समझा दे रहा हूं, अगर लाइक करोगे तो उसका भला होगा जिसको तुम नहीं जानते हो, अगर शेयर करोगे तो उसका भला होगा जिसको तुम जानते हो, और अगर सब्सक्राइब करोगे तो सबका भला होगा, क्योंकि उससे हमें मोटिवेशन मिलेगा ऐसा और अच्छा कंटेंट बनाने का। तो आखिरी बार कह रहा हूं, कर दो यार प्लीज।